Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for another very special edition of WOWSA Live with our host, Ned Dennison.
Hello, everyone. I'm the chairperson of the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame. We have one of our honorees with us today, Jim Anderson. Please say hello, Jim.
Hi there.
Jim, I'm going to give everybody just a high-level overview of your career, and then we'll get into some questions. So you were the race founder of the 7-kilometer Hawaiian Christmas Long Distance Invitational, H2O Swim in Waikiki Bay, for the first 25 years. You swam it for the first 25 years. You were also the race director for the Waikiki Roughwater in the 1980s, a founding member of the Roughwater Swim Committee, and you were an officer and a director from 1980 to 2003, and president from 87 to 96, and you swam in that race more than 20 times. You also organized the first FINA Open Water Swimming Championships in Honolulu in 2000, where 5, 10, and 25K races were held. You were also the race director for the pre-Open World Championships in 1999. You're race director for the US 25-kilometer National Open Water Championships in 99, observer at Pan Pacifics in 1999. And then you also had some interesting roles in Sabac, Serbia. Also, I spent some time in Capri and something in Bondi Beach, which I want to get to in a minute. So that's just giving people a very high-level overview. Jim, tell us about where you grew up and how important swimming was in your youth.
And I grew up in a little disadvantaged town in California. I don't know whether you've heard of it or not. A little sort of out of the way of the place called Palo Alto. And we, in high school, I was always interested in swimming. And when I got in high school, we had a winning streak of dual meets in the 80s, somewhere 80 straight dual meets we'd won. We were the powerhouse. And then there was talk about us taking a trip to Southern California to swim against some team down there. I forget what the name of it was. And we were pretty full of ourselves and all of that until we discovered that they'd won 1 or 2 more straight meets than we did. And the fact that anybody talked about a traveling trip in those days was unheard of. That just didn't happen. I mean, we traveled within our league to the different schools, but you could drive your car to there. But taking an actual trip someplace was never been heard of before. And so we were full of ourselves until we discovered that we weren't the top dog we thought we were.
Name of the team, you want to tell us?
Oh, that's Palo Alto High School swim team.
No, the team you visited down south.
Don't ask me what it is. I have no idea what it was. We obviously knew it at that time, but it's not part of my memory now.
When did you end up in Hawaii and how?
I was working in the aerospace business in Southern California, and I went to a party one night, and a bunch of us were standing around talking, and I said, nobody's been dumb enough to offer me a job in Hawaii. And this guy standing next to me just went bonkers, absolutely bonkers. And the next day I had a job offer for Hawaii, and I came out here and been here ever since.
For the record, no one's offered me a job in Fiji or Tahiti, in case anybody's listening and wants to go bonkers over it. Were there any long swims, kind of mass swims in Hawaii before you started with your Hawaiian Christmas long distance?
No, there 1 or 2 people had done a channel swim. Harry Huffaker had done a couple of channel swims, and a few other people had done some of the shorter channel swims. But the long distance swim was just due to geography, turned out to be about 7K. My original intent was to have a 10K, but nobody did 10Ks in those days, and that was before the Olympic 10K had been established. And had the Olympic 10K been established, then I probably would have done a 10K. But it was the longest swim and for a long time. What I did do with the swim was that I held it in December, which changed the entire swimming community. Prior to my swim, everything ended with a Waikiki Roughwater Swim. And nobody did anything until April of the next year when a few of the swims would start up. So given my swim, that created an atmosphere where people had to swim and work out all year round.
And was that because of temperature, rough conditions in the winter? What was the original logic for that break?
I was interested in longer distances, and I was talking about that, opened my mouth a fair amount about that among the social community. And so at some point, I had to walk the walk instead of be, big on the talk. So I got it going, and it never had a really big attendance, but the attendance was consistent over the years.
It sounds to be a consistent theme, Jim. You kind of open your mouth and talk about something, and you end up doing something. That's two now. Describe both of those events in sort of 2019 terms, pre-COVID, in terms of size and social atmosphere, the rough water and the long one.
Well, the rough water is been pretty consistent at 900 under my watch. I took it from around 300. I don't know the exact numbers, up to 1,300 swimmers. And after that, there was new management, and I really don't know what the deal is, but the numbers dwindled. But in the past years, it's been pretty stable at around 900.
And the 7K swim?
The 7K swim is basically the same. There's one guy here, Rick Heltzel, who's won it, I think, 13 times. And twice I combined that event with the U.S. National 10K Championship.
And give us your kind of highlights over the decades of those two swims. The greatest performance you ever saw, the best sunshine, the best social atmosphere. What were the highlights for you?
Well, that's a difficult question for me. Everything just kind of sort of bumbles along. The highlight for me was 1996. I had a 4-hour cutoff for my swim, and under the theory that if it took you that long to go that distance, you were working too hard and it was injurious to your good health. But 1996 was the first year we ever had a strong current against us. And a typical winning time was in an hour 30, somewhere around in there. And I think that year the strong swimmers, the winner won it in a little over 2 hours. And for my own personal experience on that is that when I got to the turnaround buoy and headed back to the start, because it was a race that didn't go anywhere. It just went out, and we had a turn buoy, and we went down to another buoy, and then turned around, went back to the start. It took me 3 hours to get to the turnaround buoy, and less than an hour to come back.
And I'm guessing there weren't feed stations along the way, and you didn't have gel packs in your cap.
If you wanted to drink or have feed, you had to take it yourself. Everybody had an escort, and if you wanted your escort to carry something, yeah, your escort could do that.
But
But
you
it
wouldn't
was
have, you wouldn't have
always-
packed them, you wouldn't have packed them with 4 hours worth of supplies.
Well, yeah, I think in the first couple of years, people tried to take a drink, but then they said, you know, hey, you know, the drink's a waste of time. And so after that, nobody did anything.
Jim, there was a famous or infamous rough-water swim, I think just after your time, that required a pretty big mask escort. I don't want to use the word save, but a accompaniment back to shore. Give us the timing of when you dropped out as the race director. Tell us about that day and the reaction of people.
Well, the problem with the Waikiki Roughwater Swim and the bad day was that we had one of those very strong currents against you. And they were totally unprepared for that because that had never happened before. We maybe had a little something in current, but nothing that ever did much of anything. And so since it had never happened before, nobody was prepared for it. And so it was a fire alarm for everybody in there. And it was unbelievable, some of the things that happened. I mean, one person in the current carried him around Diamond Head to the beach around on the other side. He came out of the water there. But they managed to, we'll give them credit, but everybody combined managed to get everybody out of the water, and there were no casualties.
So when you're a race director and you're planning for incidents, you've got 1, 2, 3 ambulances, you've got a number of rescue boats, and you're counting expectation of incidents on 1 or 2 hands. And on that race, they had lots and lots of people to be gotten out of the water.
That's true, but we've never had an incident, never had an incident before.
And great that everybody got out okay. Jim, tell us about how you got talked into, I'm guessing you opened your mouth and next thing you know, you were hosting a world championship. How did that all come about?
Well, Sam Freeze was here. He was coaching he was the head coach for the University of Hawaii. And he was instrumental in bringing that out. And he asked me to be the race director. And I was more than happy to do that. We had the pre-worlds before as a test run, and that went pretty well. And so the worlds went as good as we could do it.
And for you, what are the big differences between an elite kind of world championship and a mass distance swim?
Well, I think it's the administration. There's not much in that. Under my watch, with the Waikiki Roughwater Swim, we used to have a mass start. And then one year, we started 900 people all at once. And we got a fair number of complaints. And so we sat back and we talked about that. And we thought, well, maybe 900 was a bit too much to start all at once. So the next year, we broke it up. We had the women swim separately. And then we broke the men into 2 groups, under 35 and over 35. And boy, did we get a lot of heat over that. The women were really upset. They said, no way, our competition is the men. And we were unprepared for that. And Jim Cotton was here and he was over 35 and he said, screw that. I'm not going with the over 35s, I'm going with the younger guys. And I think he won it that year. Yeah, and Jim Cotton, my favorite story about Jim Cotton is that here was a guy that at one time was the fastest swimmer in the world, Olympic gold medalist and all that. And at the time that he won this particular event, don't ask me the year. I'm not certain what year it was, but in the award stand, I gave him the award for first place. And I also announced to the crowd that he had the distinction of being the first person to win the event in over an hour, I think it was. Normally it was 42 minutes, somewhere in that category. And here was the fastest guy, had the distinction of winning the slowest race ever.
But I think that's a lesson for organizers that anytime you make a change in a standard procedure on a race that's been going on a long time, you are going to collect some bricks. People are not going to be happy. It doesn't matter what the change is. You can give them additional free equipment, free towels and free swimsuits and free hats, and they'll be upset because they came late because they never got any free stuff, and all of a sudden you did. We had our first ever big swim in Cork. We had something break out, which is unusual in Ireland, called a free bar. When people showed up to the afters party, there was no charge for drinks at the bar. And we thought that was quite a good thing. And a number of the people from Dublin came late and missed the free bar. And you would have thought that, we had stolen from them. They were so upset with that.
Well, they're Irishmen. What do you expect?
Jim, you following that World Championship that was successful, you ended up all over the world, really. U.S. observer for Pan Pacifics in Australia.
That was before the World Championship.
That was part of your training, or part of how you got into this?
Sam asked me to go down there, and I went. And that's where I met the Gustafsons, and we developed a very strong friendship there.
Okay, so looking at the dates, your experience in Naples again was before the World Championships and the relay in Tokyo. So how did these things come about?
Well, to be honest, with Naples, is that I think Barboto was the racer. He contacted me several times and asked me to come out. And I didn't have the economic wherewithal to make the trip. And so I didn't go. I wasn't there. But then I had an occasion to go to England because my daughter was at Cambridge for a while. And so I went visited her, and I stayed with some friends of mine there, and he showed me this program, and which was for the race that Barbato wanted me to go to. And so I'm going through this, and and then all of a sudden I discovered I'm the representative from the United States.
So you got to walk the walk now.
Yeah.
So a quick jaunt from England down to Naples, and away you go. What impressions did you have of Naples compared to what you were used to in Hawaii?
Well, I never went to Naples.
Oh, you never physically made it. Sorry.
No, I never got there.
Jim, tell us about your relationship with the I'll call them the Hawaiian Marathon Mafia, or swimmers like Harry Huffager, swimmers and organizers like Linda Kaiser. How well did you know them? What kind of interaction did you have over the decades?
Well, I was part of the group that formed the Hawaiian Channels Swimming Association, and we met several times for that to try and organize that and get that going. And nothing really much very happened because hardly anybody was doing any channel swims. And then I remember there was one guy who called up and talked to somebody in the group, and we didn't pay any attention to it. And after the fact, we discovered that, hey, the guy wanted us to certify his swim. And so after that, then there was a group of, I think, 13 swimmers made a swim from Lanai to Maui. And I was one of the observers for that. But it took a long time for that organization to really get off the ground. Harry was a friend of mine. I know him well. We communicate every so often. I knew Linda Kaiser well. She got really involved in the organization later in her life. She was very strong at helping a lot of the swimmers. Many of them stayed at her house, and she supported them very well. She was good at that. She swam in my long distance swim several times. She was probably the luckiest person that ever swam in the 25 years or more that that 25-year period, I think, when she participated, because I used to have a raffle every once in a while for some prize, and Linda was the winningest person in that raffle. I mean, she won several years for that.
And everybody was looking at you going, come on now, Jim, come on, this just can't be luck.
No, nobody gave me any heat about that. I mean, we had an honest drawing. I mean, everybody watched the drawing, so and everybody had the race number in there, and it was unbelievable how many times she won.
Are you surprised, looking at the popularity of those channel swims today, from earliest memories of setting up that organization, or did you expect that kind of success over time?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's just the signs of the times. I mean, things have changed. When I was young and swimming in pools, we had all of our swim meets were in 25-yard pools. I can remember being on Treasure Island one time, and the first time I saw a 50-meter pool, I was absolutely horrified. I mean, that wall was, geez, it was really a long ways away. And then I went through that and got out and moved out here. And then I wasn't really interested much in swimming, didn't do very much. I participated in some of the meets we had, but I was more interested in the ocean swims. But I really liked the 50-meter workouts in the pool, because you could get organized before you hit the wall. And then now I'm not a real fan of 50-meter pools. I like the ocean.
And you got involved with the swims down in Bandai and also Sabak in Serbia. Tell us how that came to be and whether you physically went to these places.
Well, Voya, who was the race director there, he came out and swam in my long distance swim several times. And so my understanding was that he specifically asked for me to become the race promoter. And I was very nervous about that, because a promoter is the guy who funds the event. And I'm saying, I'm happy to come support you in an official standpoint of view, but I'm not, I don't have the economic wherewithal to fund it. And so, but eventually I decided to go, and I got there, and it was an interesting time. Serbia was an interesting place, and could be quite scary at times.
And a very different event for you down down a river.
Right.
So
Right.
kind of advantageous flow.
Well, I mean, river swims were a piece of cake in my thought process because you were going with the current. In my swim, it was an equal opportunity deal, and people never understood why it was called equal opportunity. And I said, well, yeah, we give you half with and half against the current.
You didn't have that current kind of change halfway, so people said it was against them the entire way?
No,
That
no,
wasn't
we
the,
never had that.
yeah, we have that comment a lot, which is, it changed.
Yeah.
The cyclists have made that famous, that the wind is always against them. And how about Bondi?
How about what?
Bondi in Australia?
Oh, Bondi, Graham Cole started that. He was a good friend of mine. He came up here. I think he stayed at my house once, and he was a fan of the Waikiki Roughwater Swim, and I was running that at that time, and he said, I can do that. And so he started the event, and I went down to help support him in the first year.
Jim, with marathon swimming coming into the Olympics, a kind of move from the glory of the 25-kilometer plus swims of the old days into the 10K. What's your impression of the sport today? What's the best that's come out of this change, and is there anything you particularly miss?
That's a difficult question for me. I think that the standardization of the 10K has, you don't see many 25Ks anymore. The Olympic distance pretty much standardized that, and that's kind of sort of the event distance. I think the training methods are improving and doing that. I used to watch religiously what I could. I mean, Steve Monotonis was good at getting that broadcast. And so I watched that, and I didn't think that some of the swimmers were very intelligent at their approach to some of these things. I think in the first Olympic swim, they had the guy from England, if I remember correctly, led all the way, never went to the feed stations, but he was leading the pack, but I didn't think he was very intelligent because he led the pack right to the feeding stations. If you're going to be out in front, you want to lead the pack away from the feeding stations. And then he folded at the end. So he led the pack and didn't win.
We interviewed Martin van der Veen, and what he said was that David Davies and Thomas Lurs were ahead coming the last couple of 100 meters, and everyone knew that Davies had the top speed because he was 1500 guy. And he said, for whatever reason, they took a bad line and left him a straight victory for the gold. He said, just kind of the right place at the right time, but it was never supposed to happen that way. So again, Davies' tactic at the very end, he took the wrong line.
Well, the navigation's part of the deal.
Yeah. Jim, I want to thank you very much for your time today. There are thousands and thousands of swimmers that talk very, very fondly about their annual trips to Hawaii, where they always very much enjoyed the competition, the challenge, and the whole ambiance of your events. So you've contributed a great deal to the sport. Thank you very much.
Well, hopefully our leaders will get their act together and allow people back into the state.
I won't go down that road, but we'll wish you all the best, sir.
My suggestion to you is stay in Ireland.